Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Tamiya Robles. I am the credit repair specialist expert. I am the host of my podcast, Coast to Coast Credit, owner of FixMyCreditNow850.com. Welcome, welcome. So, I'm doing another reaction video. I found this video on CNBC, and it was basically stating how you should just go ahead and pay everything with credit cards. And since this is my area of expertise, dealing with y'all, fixing credit, getting credit cards off of people's credit reports, so on and so forth, teaching you guys about trade lines, how to manage them. Sometimes I guess it's better for you to hear things outside of me, even though you guys listen to me either way. But I just wanted to do a reaction video and then state my opinion just so you guys hear from another perspective. And I haven't eaten all day, so I will be eating a snack while I'm watching this. So you eat a snack too. But anyway, let's get right into it. Start now, and then periodically, like I said, I'll just be saying my little opinions throughout the video.
Imagine ordering a coffee and slipping into a daydream. Are you also hearing Jennifer Garner ask,
"What's in your wallet?"
Well, what's in your wallet is very important. And as for all that credit card rewards talk, she might be onto something.
Most people should be able to save at least a few $100s every year just by using the right credit cards.
If you travel as much as Peyton Manning,
extra night in San Diego,
morning,
or are a diehard Swiftie trying to save on those expensive concert tickets, as these commercials will tell you, there's a card for everyone.
Now, that part I do agree with. There is a card for everyone, even if you have a low credit score, even if you have a high credit score. I do not support unsecured credit cards. I mean, if you got to do what you have to do, or you've done it already, cool, we'll work on that. And I can show you how to get out of making that a secured credit card and making it an unsecured credit card. But so far, I like what I hear, factual.
And those cards will save you money. Well, that is, if you have the funds to make the rewards worthwhile.
They could be really useful or they could be dangerous. I think the biggest tip is to know yourself.
I do agree. You do have to know yourself. However, it can be hurtful if you don't know how to use the card. Even if you're bad at managing money and credit cards and things like that, okay, I get that. But you could still manage your credit cards and it not harm you. So if you know how to properly use a credit card, you'll be fine.
Love them or hate them, those plastic or metal cards that can instantly purchase anything from a coffee to a car are no stranger to consumers. More than 80% of Americans own at least one credit card. Every time you pay for something with a credit card, you're borrowing money from the card issuer to cover your purchase. While it might feel like it, it's certainly not free. You then have to pay that money back either in full at the end of the month or over time, with interest.
The average credit card charges about 20% interest these days. So it is a very...
So he's talking about the average credit card. It depends on your credit score. Hopefully they get into that in this video. I explained to y'all, and I'll explain it again in this video, how to get out of paying interest, but there's a way around it. And again, if you know how to manage your credit card, you should be fine. But some have a higher APR rate.
Very profitable business.
So first things first, if you're not in a place where you can pay that money back by the time it's due, experts don't recommend you have a credit card at all.
Side note, if you have a cash rewards card, you can take the cash and or redeem your points into cash and pay your monthly fee. Just so you know, a little side note.
Paying 20% interest on a balance that you've accumulated, and then you pay interest on top of that. I mean, that's a really big hole that you're continuing to dig, and it's going to be really hard to get out of if you don't pay your credit card balance.
Credit cards require approval. Once you're approved, the bank authorizes a credit limit or the maximum amount of money you can borrow. That depends on factors such as your income, your other debts, and how much available credit you have on other cards.
See, I jumped again. I was just about to say, yep, it depends on how much your income is. So I know I showed you guys how to do the hack. I'll do it again as far as how to get 25,000 Navy Federal credit cards, 2 of them. Everybody should know how to do that by now. I see videos on it. And people just blew that up. But it was real popular in the pandemic and stuff like that. But some people are pissed because they don't get the full amount, or they don't get the 25,000 from Navy Federal, or they don't get whatever max amount they asked for. But that's because they're not considering their debt to income. They're not considering their possible credit score. Yes, you can have a decent credit score, but a whole lot of negatives on there that affects it, so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind, but it does seem like they're explaining that. So far, so good.
But here's the caveat. Whether or not you're approved depends on your credit score. Meanwhile, your credit score is determined by your credit report, the information related to your credit activity you might not have if you don't have a credit card. It's a catch-22.
How do you build your credit history? Well, the simplest thing is really to get a credit card, use your credit card, and pay it on time.
Okay. So I somewhat agree with that. I say somewhat agree with that because that's how you pay things on time. That is not how you build history. You're gradually building history over time, but a lot of my clients, they need to show history sooner than later. So if you're just now starting to work on your credit, build your credit, so on and so forth, that's cool. But there's ways to show that you've been paying things on time. You just didn't record it, such as Experian Boost. That's a good one. Rent Reporters. I have a link in my description with that. So I make tips with that as well. It's not just sitting there saying, okay, as of today, I'm going to start paying things on time. Yes, you're going to build, but that's over time. That's not showing history. History is the past, not the present. So if you're saying, yeah, just start paying on time now, that's how you build history. That's how you eventually build history. But a lot of you guys need history now. And that's where Tradelines come in.
Credit scores generally range from 300 to 850. The higher the credit score, the more responsible you're deemed. Credit scores not only affect whether or not you get approved for credit cards, but also your credit limit and your interest rate on loans, mortgages, and the terms lenders may assign you. Insurance providers, landlords, and employers might also want to do a check to determine your trustworthiness.
If your goals are to buy a house, get a car, get a loan, the first thing that you need to do in order to build your credit history is to get that credit card going.
Those Jennifer Garner commercials are for Capital One, but there are numerous companies in the US that offer a wide range of credit.
Capital One, Capital One. So a brief history about Capital One is they weren't always a bank. They didn't start off as a bank. If you remember anything about Capital One, they used to be a payday loan company. They used to do the little Paydex cards or payday cards, where you can just put your direct deposit on the card and use it as a debit card. And then eventually they popped up as a bank. And I remember my first reaction, I was like, is that Capital One? Like, it's like a rush card, you know what I'm saying? Like a baby fat card, if anybody knows what that is. So if you are trying to see if you're qualified for any card and you're just not sure, always start off with Capital One. Okay. Capital One is pretty easy to get credit cards, even if it's not a huge high limit. You just want to start, you want to get your foot in the door, do what you have to do, but start off with Capital One.
Cards. There's the issuers, American Express, Discover, Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo, and then there are the networks. They facilitate transactions between the merchants and the card issuers. The four major card networks are Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. Two of the world's largest card networks, American Express and Discover, are also card issuers. They're a standard.
I'm going to tell you right now, if your credit profile is not together and you don't have the right debt to income ratio or say the right things when you're applying, it's not that simple to get an Amex card. That's why I was telling you, start off, crawl before you run, especially if your credit report is not up to par. So everybody wants an Amex. A lot of my people want an Amex. It's not impossible. Let me make that clearer. But just fixing your credit and things like that. Start off with Capital One and end with the Amex.
Standard credit cards, rewards cards, balance transfer, charge, student, business, secured, limited purpose, prepaid cards, and the list goes on. Different options that may or may not be right for you depending on your personal circumstances. Standard credit cards are the most traditional type. They have an annual percentage rate or APR, sign-up bonuses, annual fees, late payment fees, balance transfer fees, foreign transaction fees, and the most exciting, rewards.
Okay, so it looks like they're about to go into rewards and some of the other things they mentioned, which is great. I'm all for rewards. I'm big on getting a rewards card. Like I said, you can cash out your rewards. You can use that to pay your fees if money's tight. You can just use your rewards. I wonder if they're going to go into that. Probably not, because that's like a tip. But this seems like all straight facts. Nothing that they're saying is wrong per se. It's not giving you any tools or tips on how to master doing this. So if the title is why you should buy everything with credit cards, yeah, but how to do it properly, how to succeed in this, I'm not really hearing. I'm just hearing basic common sense that most of us should know already.
There's actually a whole industry dedicated to maximizing credit card points and miles. Some people love it, and they love going down that rabbit hole and treating it like a game.
Bankrate.com senior analyst Ted Rossman earned more than $1,700 in rewards in 2022. But getting the most out of your credit cards depends on your spending habits. Which perks would save you the most money? So how do you choose?
If your family spends a lot on groceries, get a card that gives 5 or 6% cash back on groceries. Like, that's a really nice inflation buster right there. Maybe consider a second card that's just a solid flat rate, something like 2% cash back on everything. Most people should be able to get at least $200, $300, $400 a year just by using the right cards.
Rossman says the rewards that get the most attention are often travel related. Flights, hotels, rental cars,
One thing about those travel credit cards is they also cover gas. So I know gas prices are high. Where I'm at, they're high. I'm sure they're high throughout the US. But travel and gas are related. And so what I would recommend is once you get approved for credit cards, I would have a credit card for pretty much every situation. One for my day-to-day, one for groceries, one for travel, and things like that. Just separate it and then get the rewards points and then again have it pay the monthly fee.
access to airport lounges, free or discounted TSA pre-check, priority passes, global entry, or clear to get you through those long airport lines.
I think a really good strategy for a lot of people is one of those transferable points cards, something like Chase Sapphire Reserve or Amex Platinum. Being able to transfer to different airlines and hotels opens up a lot of options. The sort of next level tip is within that, if you find partners of partners, like United's part of the Star Alliance and American is part of One World.
Then there's rewards for dining, groceries, gas, and also complimentary memberships and subscriptions. Big perks for many are extended warranty and purchase protection.
A couple of years ago, I actually saved $300 on an Apple Watch repair. The credit card covered the replacement.
But according to Bankrate, Americans...
I do agree that you should get a gas card, for example. Just understand that the limits aren't as high as a regular credit card. But when you're trying to build credit and you want as much credit as possible, get it where you can. Get it anywhere at any time. Like, get it from all the resources. So whether it's a gas card, even store cards where you can't, cash it out per se, but it's still viewed as a trade line on your credit card. So store cards, regular credit cards, gas cards, go ahead and apply. Once you get approved for one, you're typically going to get approved for all.
favorite credit card reward is cash back.
I think especially now with high inflation, who couldn't use more cash, right?
Whereas redeeming for merchandise will likely not get you the most bang for your buck. Other rewards include sign-up bonuses, fraud protection, and having the ability to invest your money and take advantage of interest rates. Another thing to consider is how much work you're willing to do. Are you that person who's going to tape notes onto your cards to remind yourself which should be used for different types of purchases?
I know some people that have 30 or more credit cards and they have really good credit and they get really good perks and they're constantly flying first class for free. Now, that's not for everybody, of course. The average American.
I actually have a client right now who has, I think at this point, she has over 40 credit cards right now. And that's super good. The thing is, she doesn't use all of them. It's just too many to have. If you're in one of those situations, you have to use your credit cards or the bank will cancel you and it drops your credit score. Usually, with people that have that many credit cards, their credit score is so high, it's a small hit on their credit. So it's like, whatever, no big deal. But you want to continue keeping these credit cards active. If you don't really want to use some of your credit cards, like if you have that many, just use it about one time every 3 months. So therefore, the bank won't close you out. It doesn't drop your credit score, and it does show that you're actually using it.
American has about 4 credit cards. But even with 4 cards, sometimes there can be a game element to this.
Having multiple cards and playing that rewards game can get you some substantial sign-up bonuses, like the Capital One Venture Rewards credit card's 75,000 miles, or Inc. Business Unlimited's $900 in cash back.
If you are playing this rewards game, which a lot of people like to do because they like that upfront bonus, you're getting a new credit card and then you close it out, you're losing that credit history. So my recommendation is not to do that.
Whoa, the new iPhone 15 with that amazing camera. I wish my family had them.
Zoe?
Only use a credit card if you can use it responsibly.
American credit card balances reached $986 billion in the last 3 months of 2022.
The big fork in the road is whether or not you carry a balance. If you pay your credit cards in full every month, then yeah, I think you should use your credit card for everything because rewards are great. They can really add up over time.
Even though it's simple math, a 2022 survey found that among credit card holders who carry a balance, cash back was more than 4 times as popular as a low interest rate. Meanwhile, a large share of those who owe debt, 40%, don't even know the interest rate for the primary card on which they owe money.
That makes sense because, like I said, I don't care how high your interest rate is if I know how to manage my card because I'm not going to pay interest if I manage it properly. So yeah, give me a cashback card, give me a rewards card that I can make into cash so I can pay this monthly credit card balance. Especially if you're maxing it out, then you're going to get a high rewards point or you're going to get a good amount of cash back that you could apply it to the monthly fee.
One of the biggest things that we see about the spending of credit cards and those that are using it incorrectly are those that are either from lower income households, those that are uneducated in this, because no one is talking to them about money.
A recent Bankrate survey found that
And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. We didn't know. Now we know. They're saying low income because they don't teach everyone this. They only teach the selected few, and we already know who they are. Now you know.
30% of those without a high school degree didn't redeem the rewards, compared to 16% with a 4-year degree. And the lower an American's income, the more likely they were to let those rewards sit as well. More than 30% of those.
Don't let your rewards sit, y'all. If you got credit cards now, I don't care if you're low income or not. If you have credit cards, check and see if you have rewards or cashback. Use them. Because listen what the statistics are. They're saying if you're low income and you don't have a high education, you're not going to use the rewards points, man. Definitely get credit cards with rewards, period. And we'll go over that. We'll go over which credit cards have rewards points. I mean, y'all need to do this. Hopefully you're listening.
With annual household incomes below $50,000 left value on the table, compared to about 20% of those with incomes between $50,000 and nearly $80,000, and just more than 10% with incomes of $100,000 or more. SageMint Wealth Managing Partner Ann Tran says culture plays a big part in how people spend.
I grew up in an immigrant family. I wasn't taught about personal finance. You just make as much money as you can and get yourself out and build wealth for yourself.
I don't think that has anything to do with culture. That's what they teach us, period. That's what they teach in life. I know back in the day, I used to hear that some immigrants would say, get your money and put it in a mattress in your room or something like that. But what she's saying isn't unique. We're all taught that.
Tran recommends having 2 credit cards and 3 if you're a business owner. 1 for primary expenses, a second as a backup, and a third to keep business expenses separate. She says there should also be thought going into your credit card limit and your spending ratio.
Let's say you have one credit card and you've got a $10,000 limit on there and you spent all the way up to $9,000. That actually will lower your credit score because your credit to debt ratio is not good because you've used up most of your credit. So the rule of thumb is, I would say, try to stick around 30% and using what your credit availability is.
Okay. I don't agree with that. If you know how to use these credit cards, you can get the credit cards to pay for each other. That's one. Okay. And if you don't know how to get your credit cards to pay for each other, which is a very old school, old fashioned way of doing things, then you should just manage them accordingly. One of the things that you may want to do is just only spend what you can afford to pay back. That's an old school way of dealing with credit cards. Sometimes life be lifing, as the young kids say, life be lifing. And you got to do what you have to do, but you can be sure to pay your cards back on time, pay at least the minimum on time. You will be paying interest, but to avoid interest, pay more, way more than your the minimum balance. But a lot of people do max out their cards. Just have one credit card, pay for each other. That's a tip. That's a suggestion. Okay. Other than that, like I said, don't bite off more than you can chew. If you have a $10,000 credit card, doesn't mean spend $10,000 unless you know you can pay it back. But again, it confuses me a little bit because the title is why you should buy everything with credit cards. So you are going to mostly max everything out, but you should be able to pay everything down if you're living off these credit cards. But okay.
Is. And so that's why having a second card will give you a little bit of leeway in giving you more credit to spend.
For those with credit card debt, while experts don't recommend you open multiple credit cards and try to maximize your rewards, that doesn't mean you shouldn't work on ways to build your credit so that you can get to that place.
If you have credit card debt, no shame, a lot of people do, about half of cardholders, but you need to put your interest rate first. So maybe seek out a 0% balance transfer card, or stick to the lowest rate card you can find, or just use cash or debit until you're debt free.
There are a lot of cashback rewards.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. But if you're trying to make your build your credit profile and stretch out your money, things like that, I mean, that's what it's good for. You might not have the funds to pay something up front at that moment or when it's due, but you will afterwards. So yeah, it's good to find a credit card with a low interest rate, 0% APR, all that, but inclusive of rewards cards. So yeah, just stay tuned for future videos. I will go over which credit cards are good for cashback and low interest.
Rewards cards that do not have annual fees that will give you 1% back on all your purchases. And that is probably the most simple.
Now, let's say you get to a place where you've got some plastic in hand and you're feeling good about those rewards. The work doesn't end there. She says you should continue to reevaluate your debt and credit cards at least once a month.
Tracking your finances, whether it's on an Excel spreadsheet or using an app like Mint.com, something that will track what all of your assets, all of your debt and liabilities are, so that you know where everything is.
And if you're racking up those points, use them. Almost a quarter of rewards credit card holders haven't redeemed any rewards in the past year. And that's an improvement from the 31% of those who didn't in the preceding 12 months.
It doesn't get more valuable over time. In fact, a lot of times these programs changed their rules in ways that the industry calls devaluations. Like basically it costs more points or miles to get the free flight or the free hotel stay. So use them sooner rather than later. And then
so some credit card companies have a use it or lose it type of rules. I'm not familiar with what he's talking about because I use mine. And I don't hear my clients complain about anything, maybe because enough people aren't using their rewards points, but that's something interesting. But I do use mine. So, I mean, sometimes people maybe want to let it accumulate for a couple months and then use it, or use it for the annual fee, what have you.
cash back too, that can lose value to inflation.
Most people are scared of money, and you shouldn't be. If you know the facts and you understand how money works, it can be really empowering.
Okay, CNBC. All right, so that's that. So again, my opinion is that it was very informative. I'm glad that they spoke on it. I don't really think they got into in depth like I would have wanted on how you should buy everything with credit cards, because buying everything on credit cards means my mortgage, which you can't pay on a credit card, or my rent, which I'm assuming you can't pay with a credit card, my car note, that's paying for everything, gas, food, yeah, data, utilities. I didn't hear that. So I'm a little frustrated with that one. So I'll just say my opinion on that. So pay what you can pay with a credit card. And if that's utilities, pay utilities with a credit card. Pay everything with a credit card if you can. If you're able to pay it back, pay it and pay the more than 30% utilization every month. That's what I say. Spread it out. You could also change the due dates on your credit cards. So if you have, let's say you have two credit cards. So maybe have one credit card due date is on the first of the month, and then the second is the end of the month. And then again, have them pay for each other. That's an option as well. Or just keep it that way. If you don't want to do all that and you do plan on paying your credit cards off, but the dates are too close, move the dates. But I thought that video was kind of interesting. I think they could have done a little better. But yeah, I'll do videos on credit cards that give you rewards points and things like that. It's actually a list I have. I just have to go in the whole library and blow the dust off of that list and share it with you guys. But yeah, low interest rate credit cards and cash reward credit cards that you should apply for. That will probably be coming up soon. Hopefully that worked. If you guys need credit repair, definitely, hit me up. Look in the description below. Schedule a consultation, free 30-minute consultations when you are ready to start your credit repair journey. Please do not hit me up just to see if I'm going to answer. Yes, I'm going to answer. You're going to get me. All right. But when you're ready to start, when you're serious, or you need help structuring a plan, sometimes you guys need a plan, definitely hit me up. Check me out on social media, my podcast. I'm on Airways. Everything is in the description. In the meantime, I wish you guys the best of luck on your credit journey. Have a good one.